to make us feel down, to remind us of our responsibility and our nature as the church of God. In the parable, think of the rich man as the church, blessed beyond measure, blessed with abundance, blessed with more than he needs. There's a reason behind that. We've always said this. We are blessed to be what? A blessing. Our needs are met and there's extra, and that extra has a purpose. That is so that we can meet the needs of those who are in need. Because once we were in need, and God helped us, and He wants us to be like Him. Many times, He sends people to our door, to our gate. And we need to be sensitive, as the theme suggests today, a sensitivity to the needy. Because, like I said, we once were needy. Reason Israel was instructed to be kind to the foreigner was because they once were foreigners in an ancient land. I mean, that's not foreign land, right? So they must not forget that they who were given help must also be ready to give help to those who are in need. Because again, we're talking about stewardship. Things we have, sometimes call our own, really not our own. They have a purpose. And that is for us to use them for the glory of God and to meet the needs of the least of His brethren. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, Moses was reminding or warning the people. He said to them as they were getting ready to occupy the promised land, He said to them, this is what's going to happen. We're going to enter the promised land, and you will have an inheritance. You will have lands, you will have houses, and you will develop fields, you will have vineyards, you will have vats, you will prosper, you will have cattle, etc. Let me say this now. Do not forget the Lord your God. It is He who gives you power or ability to make wealth. Don't say, no, I earned this. I worked for this. My own sweat and blood, I earned this. It is He who gives you ability to make wealth. Remember how He took you out of the wilderness, brought you to a land flowing with milk and honey. You cannot receive God's blessing and forget Him and ignore His command that comes with the blessing. In St. Paul's letter to Timothy, he mentioned for Timothy to instruct those who are rich in this life, in the church. Do not be conceited and do not fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches. Riches are uncertain, material riches anyway. But to fix their hope on God, because if they fix their hope on uncertain riches, they will turn into a curse. Amos warns, woe to those who are at ease in Zion. Where? In Zion. God's people. Those who feel secure, those who recline on luxurious beds and couches, who eat the best, drink the finest wine, anoint themselves with the finest oil, blessed abundantly, yet, do not grieve over the ruin of their brothers. Remember this church in Laodicea, Revelation chapter 3? Jesus rebuked them and told them, you think you're rich, you think you're wealthy. Because you don't do the will of God, you are poor and miserable and wretched, and you don't even know it. That's the sad part. Pope Francis, in his homily on the same parable, said that insensitivity to the needs of the poor and suffering is a sinful state. You have to get yourself out of that state. Because God called us to be sensitive to the needs of those around us. That's the very reason He blessed us. You know, interesting how that in the parable of the sheep and the goats, the sin that was severely, extremely condemned was not the sin of committing some heinous crime. It wasn't about rape. It wasn't about murder. It wasn't about, torture or corruption. I'm not saying Jesus condones those, but the sin that was seriously condemned was the sin of omission. What blessed, people that are blessed did not do. That was what was condemned. Jesus said, I was naked, you didn't clothe me. I was in prison, you didn't visit me. I was sick, you didn't heal me. I was hungry, you didn't feed me. That was what was condemned. You know? Just interesting. Greatest offense is the sin of omission, particularly sin of ignoring the needs of others when God has already blessed us abundantly. Let us learn. Church, let us learn from the rich man in the parable. You know, I was contemplating showing another video. It was very, very confrontational. It shows one scene after the other, scenes of on the one hand, poverty, suffering, and on the other hand, scenes of mansions and limousines and private jets of celebrity preachers and their teachings on prosperity, while other scenes being shown are people in need, malnourished people, dying people, scenes of pictures of refugees trying to flee their country because of oppression and wanting to get into other countries, and other countries shut their doors on them because they didn't want their wealth to further be distributed to others who they think are lesser than they or lower than they. Sad, they protect their borders, they protect their wealth. And it's just sad because God expects us who have been blessed to open our doors and our blessings so that others' needs may be met. Now, don't misunderstand. God's will for us, like I said earlier, is abundance. For our needs to be met first. And the overflow is for us to bless others and meet their needs. St. Paul calls this in his letter to Timothy, life indeed. Life indeed. Because life, as the world tries to inculcate in our minds, is not hedonism, is not materialism. That's not life. Life indeed is what God wills for us. For us to be blessed and to be used by God to be a blessing. That is life indeed. If we only want the blessing and not yield ourselves to be instruments of blessings, that is not life indeed. Because that will be cut short soon, maybe sooner than we think. Which is why St. Paul warns, do not put your trust on the uncertainty of riches. They're uncertain. You may be on top now, by the world standards, but tomorrow you may find yourselves on the bottom. We've seen that, right? People going bankrupt. I mentioned this trivia in one of the earlier services. At least in the United States, 80%, that's 8 out of 10 people, 8 out of 10 who win the lottery, first prize, go bankrupt within 1 year, 12 months. How do you spend millions of pesos in 1 year? Go bankrupt. I mean, you have to spend every day, hundreds of thousands, or, huge amounts of money. How do you do that? I don't know. Ask 8 out of 10 people. They do that. How? I don't know. Uncertain. Very uncertain. What God wills for us is this. He richly, richly supplies all things for us to enjoy, all good things. Way beyond the temporal, way beyond the material. We say in our doxology, praise God from whom all blessings, all good things come. Not just the good things that the world wants us to pursue. But there's a condition. It's for us to be rich in good works as well. To be generous and to be ready to share with those who are in need. Thereby storing up for ourselves treasures of a good foundation for our future. Now talk about good investment. This is the best. We heed the will of God and His command. It's just sad that many, maybe, who are rich in material wealth are also rich in haughtiness and arrogance. I've told you before, I've experienced working in a fast food restaurant. And I've seen how that people who think they have mistreat the people who they think are below them. Really sad. Really sad. In a country that is a professing Christian country. And many are Christians, believers in God. They think they're better, they think they're wiser, they think they're higher. And they mistreat people, they shout at them, not realizing, forgetting that they're human beings, they're brothers, they're sisters, they have feelings too. And God sees them as the least of His brethren. Jesus said in Luke chapter 12 that not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. One's net worth, one's life is not measured by currency or in terms of pesos or dollars. The amount of money you have in the bank or in your pocket doesn't make you more important than others. How God sees us, our net worth, is how much do we give of ourselves to Him in obedience to His will. Yet, like I said, sad that some who are conceited and haughty have a form of, or embrace a form of godliness. Form, sa Tagalog nga, mas emphasize ko, forma. Ma-forma, o puro forma. And they have this status symbol. I belong to this church, I belong to that church, I do this, I do charity work. But is it the will of God? Is it the will of God? Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father will enter. Notice whose will? The Father's, not ours. Not what we think is right. Not what we set for a course for ourselves. Not just our form of godliness, but God's will. People will say, but didn't we, in your name, prophesy? Didn't we cast out demons in your name? Didn't we perform many miracles in your name? Didn't we serve in church in your name? God involved in its activities in your name? The question is, were they really in God's name? Were they really His will? or what we just thought was right in our eyes? What is the Father's will and what are we doing? Are we doing it? Or just some other holy-looking thing? Isaiah 58 tells us what the will of the Father is. Why we fasted and you do not see? Why we humbled ourselves, you do not notice? We have, we observe certain things. Form of godliness. Why do you not see? Behold, on the day you fast, you find your desire. Not mine, your desire. And you drive hard all your workers. Is it a fast like this which I choose? A day for a man to humble himself, bowing one's head like a reed, spreading out sackcloth and ashes as a bed? Call this a fast, acceptable to the Lord? Is this not the fast which I chose? To loosen the bonds of wickedness, to undo the bands of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and break every yoke? Is it not to divide the bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into the house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not hide yourself from your own flesh. We're part of each other. We're brothers and sisters. We're one family with each other. We're not to hide ourselves from the need of others. And then you will call and the Lord will answer. You will cry and He will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from your midst, pointing of the finger, and the speaking of wickedness, if you give yourself to the hungry, satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then your light will rise in darkness, and your gloom will become like midday. That's the heart of the Father. That's His will. Not merely just offerings and sacrifices, which they're good. They're good. The heart of God is using the blessings we have received so that we can be a blessing to those most in need. Blessed to be a blessing. Jesus said, I desire mercy. Not merely sacrifice, not merely offerings, not merely forms of godliness, not merely those things. Those are necessary. But don't forget the weightier matters of the law. Compassion, not religiosity, not form, not just sacrifice. Continuing on with chapter 7 of Matthew. Jesus said to those who said these things then, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Prophesying, lawlessness. Casting out demons, lawlessness. Performing many miracles, lawlessness. Isn't that the work of the church? Yes. But if it's not God's will for you, if He has other things for you that you ignore, then that becomes lawlessness. Even if it takes, even with what we do, it takes the form or a form of godliness. There's this character in the book of Judges. His name was Micah. He hired a priest, employed a priest, and made him live in his house. And he, paid him to perform sacrifices and services for him, so that he could probably think to himself he could fulfill his obligation as an Israelite, religious obligation. So that's what he did. The priest was at his beck and call. He told him to speak what he wants him to speak and what he wants to hear, and whatever tickles his ears. No commitments, no vows, no obligations on the part of Micah. It's sad that happens today among Christians in the church. You might say, oh, Bishop, nobody hires full-time priests and makes them live in their house so that they can have church in their house. Well, slightly different. What some do is they go to where this priest is that they like to be. They go there so that they could hear what they want to hear, and they could be tickled the way they want to. Not, or ignoring, not following the command of the Lord. And this is the command of the Lord, found in Deuteronomy chapter 26. He says, you go to the place that I choose. God chooses. That's my will. You obey my will. You go to the place I choose. Then you give your offering to the priest in office that you didn't necessarily choose, but I did. You offer him your sacrifice. You go to the place I chose for you. His will. That's why we call him Lord. Because we cannot say, Lord, no. Right? Sinabi, Lord, boss. Kayo ang boss ko. Siya ang boss natin. Lord. His will is to be done. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. But those who do the will of my Father. And that's his will. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Obedience better than sacrifice. I don't want this to feel heavy. Let me encourage you. In fact, encourage each other. Say to the person beside you the following. You are a chosen race. You are a royal priesthood. You are a holy nation. You are blessed. Don't ever entertain the thought that you are in lack. That is a lie. That's not the truth. You are blessed. And, like I think I said it last week, we are a thankful people. Eucharistic community of the faith. We are a thankful people. Don't ever stop thanking God. Be thankful for his blessings. There's a responding canticle, we call it, in daily office, out of Isaiah chapter 60, called Surge Illuminati. And in it says, you are the city of the Lord. You, the chosen race, royal priesthood, holy, you are the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Nations will come to your life. Why? Because you're blessed. Because God has poured out his abundant blessings upon you. Those who are in need will come to you. Nations will come to your life. Kings to the brightness of your rising. Kings? Kings have needs? Yes. Yes. It's like I said, money's not everything. Kings may have money, but they will go to you. They will come to you to the brightness of your rising because you have something they don't have. That is the blessing of God. Life forever. You will call your walls salvation and your gates praise. Etc., etc. The sun will no more be your light by day, etc. It goes on and says, your gates shall be open continually. By day or by night, they will never be shut. Don't close your gates, brothers and sisters, to the Lazaruses outside. Don't. Because that's not what God made you to be. Your gates shall be open continually. Because your blessings overflow. If you close your gates, you might drown in your blessings. Right? Choke on them. That's not good. Your gates shall be open continually. Your gates are called praise. Your walls are called salvation. There's blessings inside the city of the Lord. Let them flow. And let people come to you. Kings to the brightness of your rising. Nations streaming to your light. Let them come. Bring it on, right? Let them come. Because we have been ordained, blessed and ordained to meet the need. And I'm not talking about just money. Like I said, kings will come. Kings who have money will come. But we may not have silver and gold, such as we have, which is abundant. We give to those in need. Do not withhold, brothers and sisters. Never withhold. Learn from the rich man in the parable. Don't withhold. You know, recently, again in daily office, reading from Esther, out of chapter 8. Remember that scene when the king extended his scepter to Esther? And then this is what he told after extending his scepter. That gesture is, by the way, a symbol of full authority by a supreme entity. And this is what the king said to Esther. You write or do to the Jews as you see fit. See yourself, the church, as Esther. God extended his scepter to us, gave us full authority, backed it up with abundant blessings, and then said to us, what you bind on earth is bound in heaven. What you bless is blessed. What your hands touch is blessed. And they can come to life. You have my full authority. I, the Lord of heaven and earth. That is why he seriously condemns the sin of omission. Because he already has extended that scepter to us and blessed us and gave us authority. We keep our talent underground. Well, we must be ready for something we don't like that might be coming our way. By the way, Lazarus' name means God is my help. God is my help. God will help the needy one way or another. God will help the needy with or without us. The question is, will we participate? Or do we want to hear the kingdom of God will be taken from you and given to a nation producing fruit? I don't want to hear that. You want to hear that? Nobody wants to hear that. It's our choice. Are we to obey his will and allow ourselves to be used as a blessing? Or we will do our own will? God wants us to choose life. In fact, he commands us to choose life. He wants us to experience life indeed. Life in its fullness. Life in abundance. Life he provided for us by giving his own life. That's how much he loves us. That's his will. That's why he died for us. And that's the way it is in the kingdom of our God.